Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar with Eric Jacobs of Access Navigator. What is Access Navigator is the title of the webinar. Welcome, everyone. We are recording this, and the recording will be available on ATAP's YouTube channel and also in our AT community resources. With that, I will turn the time over to Eric to introduce himself and Access Navigator to us. Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Jamie. Uh, as you said, my name's Eric Jacobs. I'm part of a team that put together Access Navigator as part of the Rehabilitation Engineering Research Center on Alternative and Augmentative Communication, aka the RERC on AAC. The project was really led by a combination of Heidi Kester and Susan Fager. Uh, And then we also had input from Jessica Gormley and Tabitha Sorensen as our clinical side. And then I helped Heidi Kester for much of the development of the application. Uh, just to give you a little bit about me. I'm currently an R&D software engineer with Penn State University, funded by the RERC on AAC. I'm located in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Uh, my mission uh, throughout my professional life has been providing research tools for users of AAC and those who help them. So people like you, transferring the knowledge gained in research to industry partners. Um, I told Jamie a little bit ago that my previous experience with ATAP was while I was at Invotech. We also had a nonprofit wing called Be Extraordinary, where we worked with ATAP in Arkansas to help with getting some devices out to people, and we kind of helped with more difficult assessments. I really love the organization, and I'm glad to get to speak to you. Through a little picture of me with my youngest dog. We have four, and from a dog adoption event that we attended. Uh, so, as far as questions, if anybody has questions throughout, I'm open to questions anytime. I am not sure where I would see those, but if someone could help me know that there's one.
I will monitor the chat for you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jamie. Uh, so we always kind of start these presentations with like, what is alternative access and uh, kind of start there. I don't think I need to really dive in very deep with this populate with this audience. So uh, just kind of say we know that access to electronic devices is extremely important. Alternative access is anything that you use that doesn't require fully coordinated and agile use of fingers and hands for keyboards and mice. Um, you also kind of think about eyesight, problem solving, cognitive, and perceptual abilities too. Uh, So we alternative access is with the intention is that anybody would be able to access anything, any electronic device without needing to use what they were originally developed to be accessed with. We use uh, this is a very good example of somebody who's using AAC, right? He's using a switch on his neck to be able to do scanning. We all probably know that there are many types of access solutions from changing accessibility settings to all the way to brain computer interface, eye gaze, head tracking, all of those sorts of things. Uh, You can dive in on any of the hands-free mice, even has, 5 different choices, and then you use an on-screen keyboard and you have complete control. Um, so there's a lot to keep in mind as you're somebody who's carrying out assessments. And uh, we really ask the question of how well do existing alternative access methods meet users' needs. These are all the indicators of success, some of the indicators of success that we use from typing speed, ergonomic comfort, satisfaction, then use and abandonment. Typing speed is the most common indicator in research. We really, it's one of those kind of easy metrics to measure, but it is not always the most important method once you get into using a specific access method day in and day out. That said, there are lots of cases where you can really improve typing speed just through setting changes or slight tweaks to an access method. Um, we really just don't want to slow users down. Another finding is 7 in 10 people abandon their assistive technology. So that just is another indicator that there's room for improvement. So alternative access methods can help a lot, but there's room for improvement. Using less than optimal access methods can negatively impact all parts of a person's life, including the communication, schoolwork, employment, and any other opportunities for full participation. According to Howard in 2020, there really are 6 main barriers that can affect outcomes: design and function, psychological attitudes, societal support, societal attitudes and policies, which those four, we kind of wanted to put those aside and focus more on the information and awareness and then service provision. There's lots of work being done on design and function. Uh, the other three are very complicated social issues, and I think that those we're working on those too, just not directly with this project. More effective leverage of alternative access technology is already available. So we really are what our goal, that's part of what you guys do. So the we really want to improve the service provision process by creating a framework and this application that allow a repeatable collection of data to help with decision making. And also give tools to where we kind of raise awareness to what's possible for some people who don't have as much experience with this field. And like I said, that's where Access Navigator came in as a RERC project. We wanted to develop this Access Navigator software. It's a web-based tool to guide access assessments. And our goal was to improve the quality of access assessments by leading teams through repeatable and systematic process and incorporating performance measures for evidence-based decision making. Also, a perk is that we are going to continue to be freely available, uh, and it is currently available. I wanted to talk just a little bit about our design process to just kind of show that we didn't just come up with this in a vacuum. We started by doing a product definition, which involved user interviews, uh, trying to get a list of requirements. Kind of personas are people who we're kind of going to use it as an example in our heads as to whether or not our system is working. Scenarios and kind of get a basic workflow. We did MVP initial design, which is MVP is a minimal viable product, where we did wireframe design. It's a technical version of taking a piece of paper and drawing out the user interface. And we had two user studies that we did to check this wireframe UI and determine whether or not we were, heading in the right direction to actually attack the problem that our product definition had set forward for us. Um, so for the interviews, we ended up interviewing 11 people. There were 46 themes and corresponding requirements. Uh, we really found that one of the big things was just practitioner anxiety. I should know this, but I don't. We wanted to design the app to kind of try to take the worry out of assessments and make you feel like you're backed up in your decisions that you make. For UI feedback, we had 12 practitioners using that wireframe, the hand drawing almost version, and there was a high agreement that people really wanted it, and they thought it was easy to use, and the basic workflow was sound. Once we got there, we started our real development. So that consisted of Heidi did a lot of our front end, or what you are actually interfacing with, what you're using. I spent a lot of time with back end and DevOps, as well as helping with front end. So like all the data and making sure that, if you log in on this computer, it's going to be your stuff from the other computer is still there. All of that kind of stuff that we kind of take for granted in systems. And then we did a lot of videos and learn more entries to as supporting content. And that was mainly our clinical team of Susan, Jessica, and Tabitha. We reached a point where we had kind of another minimal viable product where you could actually use it. So instead of having the piece of paper that we kind of walked you through and told you what it's going to do, you could actually click buttons and do it yourself. So we had five practitioners try it out using a think aloud protocol, uh, using a chosen use case scenario, which are kind of like those personas that I talked about. Uh, what we ended up having them do is just use the app to pretend like they're doing an access assessment and just tell us what they're thinking as they do it. Uh, See, all of the participants conducted the mock session correctly and successfully with an average of 42 minutes. Very high usability. The a sus score is system usability of 86. That puts us in like top 10% of scores for usability. And we found six key issues in the UI that sent us back to development to try to fix those problems. Once we fixed all those things and kind of attacked what we decided was going to be our final product, we started our clinical evaluation, which was 16 practitioner patient dyads. We had 11 practitioners and 15 individuals with motor impairments. So you can see that some multiple practitioners are some individuals with motor impairments you worked with multiple practitioners and vice versa. Uh, each dyad session, they had at least two systems that were trialed, their current access method and then an additional access method. And this will make a little bit more sense once we walk through the app for in the next few minutes. For seven dyads, did at least one built-in activity, which if anybody's familiar with Heidi's work with the Compass app or Scanning Wizard, or she spent a lot of time building tools that gave you the ability to have numbers to back up your decision making. So we built that into this application. So those built-in activities, they automatically record statistics. You also have a choice of doing your own thing. And we had 9 dyads decide to do that rather than the built-in activities and then record uh, their results back into the app. As a result, the decisions were always based on data whenever the session was done. We only had 2 dyads decide to like chase down a new access method. 13 chose to stay with what they were already using. I think one of the people who are involved in research generally have had really good support. So they kind of already had really great systems, and that it was good to have data that backed up that they were doing the right thing. And then we had one person who didn't decide to switch, but they wanted to continue looking at it. So again, we'll go into the usability was rated super high, 83, still in the top 10 of sus scores. And we had 4.3 out of 5 agreement that Access Navigator was an improvement over current processes that people used. We also had great patient ratings. Like they enjoyed the app. They appreciated that their preferences were taken into account. They didn't feel like having the practitioner in the room with their device was a distraction and really felt like the app added value to the evaluation process. So I'm going to go ahead and jump to the meat and potatoes of this, and we'll go through the application. But I just want to keep in mind that our goal is to support all stakeholders to try to make an optimal or at least better solution. We really want to make it easier for practitioners and teams to use to use a process that's been shown to be effective and center their focus on the user and their needs. We really want to support effective and evidence-based decision making and take some of the worry out of assessments. Uh, for those, we'll come back to this slide, but this QR code is to access Navigator, and this is the URL. Like I said, it's currently available and freely available. Let me go ahead and switch. Are there any questions before get moving?
They want us to put the URL in the chat. Here, let me see if I can do that real fast. I
Oh,
can't copy. I think you have to do it.
okay. There we go.
There, you let me. No, not do that here.
Oh, sorry, that went to hosts and panelists.
Yeah,
Everything.
yeah. Send it to everybody.
I'll share it again.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So let's start here. So if you go here for the first time, this is what you end up seeing. We just kind of a little bit of information. One of the things you'll find on almost every page is a learn more. This is a lot of what I went through for the slides. So we won't dig into it, but I just want you to notice those things throughout the application. Let's see. I think that this should be okay size wise. So we have a user, so we can sign up. I already have a user that's a practitioner. You can add clients then under your practitioner. We also support being able to request access to another client. We kind of assume that you are working with the person who is also working with that client. And the requesting access, you already know the client's username. And we the request is sent through the app through Access Navigator, and the next time that they open it, they'll be able to confirm that you have access. But I'm just gonna start a new person, so we're gonna uh, uh, so client username, we kind of assume that you will pick something that either, if it's important for HIPAA that it's unidentifiable, you pick a name that's unidentifiable. If if you are in a situation where you don't have to worry about that, you can choose your username however you like. You'll see the uh, name just kind of gets dropped in different places just so that you to make it feel a little bit more personalized. So the first thing that we do is gather background information. We kind of explain why this is important. And so first we would do, what type of activities does this person want to do? And I am actually I'm going to make this a more personalized name just so that it doesn't look so strange. So we have a list of options. Uh, maybe Chris wants to be able to use email and use online tools. So I pick that. For today, we really want to focus on uh, online tools. Are there specific devices Chris wants and needs to use? Chris already has a Windows computer that he's hoping to use. So we've collected that. We have an easy place to update those things, and you can check what you've done. Contacts, what are the environments? Chris is going to be using this mostly at the office, and sometimes at home. He's going to be at a desk or workstation. Then we ask the kind of a user focused question of how important is it that they're able to independently set up their access method? Uh, and how important is it that they can completely independently use the access method? So you can think of like an eye tracker, right? That's something where they can't really independently set up, but they can independently use. So this kind of puts you makes you think about what type of access methods you may choose for a person. We ask for their history. So we'll say that currently there is nothing that they're using. Uh, in the past, they tried standard keyboard and mouse. Uh, why is it no longer in use? It's getting hard to make all the movements necessary to use. Uh, they've used Windows. They're also haven't had an iPhone for a while. So all this kind of gets put together. So now you kind of have some background information about Chris, just in terms of what technology he uses and what types of things he's interested in doing. Then we move on to abilities. One thing that you'll notice is that we don't ever ask the diagnosis. Um, this was one of those interesting things as we were going through uh, the process of building this app. We thought we were going to be able to do like some great feature matching on our own and kind of make the make help you in decision making. And we found that diagnosis wasn't a great indicator of what somebody needed to use. And a lot of the times the the clinician is going to have the best idea. They're working with the person, and us as technology trying to tell you what to do wasn't a positive thing. So we kind of so now we go into evaluating abilities, and that starts with what access sites does a person have. So I have hand and but my fingers aren't great. I clearly intelligible speech and all all of these look good. We get you once you've put together your list of body sites, we want you to kind of drag these around and put it into order. So that you want to try the access site that's most uh, you want to kind of get an idea of what access sites you're going to be uh, deciding to use. There's a lot of places in the app to just add these notes as well. Uh, we have you do a quick look at visual abilities. As you can see, it's not like we're doing an eye exam, but we want to keep in mind Chris does not wear glasses. He uses other visual aids. Uh, so he uses high contrast fonts. Does he have any of these key issues? Uh, we'll say that Chris doesn't specifically have any of these. Language and cognition, we just want you to think about, uh, understands and can follow a three-step process. Limitations, tired quickly. Uh, speech can start to slur. Here's another option to just add some other stuff that you hadn't thought to add yet. And then we get to the review, and we have all of this information just right in front of us. Easy to say, oh, I was wrong. He does wear glasses. Uh, but he sees better with the glasses, sees the screen better with the glasses off, and that was why I didn't know that. So now if I go back to review, that new information is here. Now we get to this is kind of the meat and potatoes part. So this is the test drive solutions. Kind of like test driving a car. You've done all of this feature mapping. You think you know exactly. You kind of narrow it down between these two options that you really like. So now let's collect some data and figure out which one's better. So let's get. We'll start with a baseline. this page is just a list of a whole bunch of different types of access methods. We purposely do not go into brands or anything like that. We want this to kind of you know what stuff you have in each of these areas. So we don't want to kind of try to pigeonhole you into specific brands or any of that sort of stuff. So we'll just start with the the conventional keyboard. I'm going to use that with my right hand. Uh, I don't need any of these things. Positioning, keyboard is attached to the laptop. Other notes, none. Let's see. We do this check your setup. All this is, can you type? Can you click? Can you see the cursor move? It's a good way to know that you've connected whatever hardware to the device that you're performing the assessment on. Hit continue. Here's our test drive, our setup that we're going to try out. So we want to do a text entry. We have an option to for settings. Just to make this go a little quicker, I'm gonna do 2 words instead of multiple sentences. We have options here too where you can either start the activity on this device, or if I click another device, we create this QR code within the app, and you could uh, use this to get to open up the test drive on your client's computer. We also show you the link so that you could email it to them, whatever, uh, that way. And then once the activity is done, the statistics will show back up on your device. So we're going to stick with this device just for the process of showing this. So uh, so I was pretty quick typing those short words and had perfect accuracy. We're going to continue. So you could do another test drive activity, or we're just going to finish and rate. We ask you to double check. Sometimes whenever you're in the middle of trying something out, you say, "Oh, this was absolutely terrible. I'm just going to add this splint to the person's hand." So instead of just leave, but you want to be able to document that that was what the person had success with. So this allows me to uh, finish this. So the next thing is rating it. So we want from Chris's perspective, from the patient, what was your perspective on how the test drive went? Uh, and he's like, I really didn't like this. I'm gonna give it 2 stars. Then we ask from your perspective as a practitioner, and you say, oh, he was kind of successful. What were the problems? Uh, he was hitting multiple keys at once, insufficient range of motion. So we then let you interpret. So we try to give some examples of like here's what, based on hitting multiple keys at once, by mistake, here's a great idea. Let's isolate the key presses by repositioning, doing a stylus, key guard, switching to a large keyboard. Try to give you ideas of where to go next on on making this specific access method better. Uh, I'm gonna do another one just to give us something quick to compare. So we'll do a compact keyboard this time. Still using right hand. Uh, using arm mount to the keyboard in the middle of lap. Sorry, I'm just gonna click through pretty quickly and get this data in. No, let's finish and rate. So from Chris's perspective, like this was so much better. Uh, you think he was often successful? Uh, we didn't have anything that specifically we noticed that was a problem. No, let's wrap up for today. So you see here, now we have those two different options. We really bring to attention the rating from Chris and the success rating from the practitioner. You can dive in and you can see, oh, there was a text entry activity. Here's all the details. Can dive in here and we see, yeah, there was also text entry here. We continue. We kind of ask you to make some decisions. So if you had, maybe this is the fifth time you've seen the person and you've done our four different access methods in that time, or four different test drives. You can pick a couple and compare them side by side with all the data that we saw from that other screen, including what activities were done, client ratings, practitioner ratings, all of that stuff. Uh, we're So these are the prospects, these are the things that you've thought about doing. We have this idea of these are a pick. So a pick is like I think that this is really has something going for it. So I moved the compact keyboard up, continue. We have you go through this checklist to just say, can I use this for online tools? Does it work with Windows? Can I use it at home? Can I use it at my desk? And uh, am I able to independently use it? Since these things were all important to me. The next step for the compact keyboard is let's set this up at home and try it out there. So this is pretty much the end of the application, and we have the option to create a report. Uh, this just has everything that you have entered into the application about this person, including details of each of the test drives, and you have the ability to print this page. We want to make sure that you end up, you know, as you could see, we didn't tell you what to do. We kind of relied on your expertise and just gave you all the tools to make sure that you got as much information as possible to make sure it best fit. Uh, and then we give you the ability to have this report so that you can add it to somebody's documentation and say, this is why we went with the decision that we made, instead of it just being, this is my experience that tells me. This is like, put some real data driven numbers behind it. Um, so that really is just a quick walkthrough of the application. Are there questions about the application specifically, or we can go back to the presentation and I can kind of answer other questions there?
They want to know where is the print button or how do you print?
Yeah, that would just be using the browser print. So let's see, got stuff is hidden for me. Let's see. You can just come over here and use the browser print, and then you're able to print it to PDF or anything else. One of the things we add is we also add these ability to just put in little notes, places that then get added, and then whenever you print, those things would also be there.
I'm not seeing any other questions right now in the chat. Does anybody have any questions? Further questions? Oh,
Well, I can show. I talked a little bit about the learn mores. I feel like this is one of the interesting things that we try to add. So, for example, like just uh, explaining this is an initial screen for access sites, um, focus on specific. Here are some ideas of how you'd be able to use certain areas. If we go on to this next page, we have like these little infos. We have videos that we add in certain places where we kind of uh, do a short video kind of showing uh, how do you test somebody's ability to rotate, nodding up and down, tilting left and right. These are kind of just sprinkled throughout to so we try to make it so that it's very streamlined. If you are somebody who is in the middle of a access assessment and you just want to get your data in, but it's also kind of a learning experience for somebody who's new. We've used it a little bit with pre-service professionals, just learning more about what's out there, um, and how to assess things.
there was a question about its cost. If you want to go through that, it's free and exactly like I know you shared the URL and the QR code, but how do people access this and just talk about availability and such.
Yeah, and let me switch back to the page with the URL and the QR code. Yeah, the we we plan on this being fully free. So all you have to do is go to that URL, and we received the grant money to put this together, and we had enough money there to uh, ensure that it'll continue to be available for quite a while. Uh, we are also in like communicating with different manufacturers and in the field to make the try to ensure the longevity even past what we have funding for. This specific rendition of the RERC on AAC posted at Penn State is in its last year. But I, for example, my role is ending at the end of the year, but I am also going to be part of the next round, which is at the University of Arkansas, with a lot of the same team members. We just Janice Light, who was our primary investigator, uh, retired this year, so we had to move around who was going to be PI of the grant.
Well, this is great. I'm not seeing any other. Wait a minute. Hold on. I do see something here. Let me see. What is the difference between using with an account or without an account?
Okay. Uh, so using with an account means that the data is going to be saved with your account. If you run without an account, there is nowhere to save the data from run to run. So if you want to open up the web browser, go to Access Navigator, enter all the data, get your report, print it, and then just throw everything away, then you can do that. And that works perfectly fine. But a refresh of your browser or something like that can mean that your data disappears. Oh, one other interesting thing. We also have built this app in a way where you need internet access for the initial going to Access Navigator. But once you're there, it doesn't require internet access to continue running. So you saw us going from page to page to page. All of that stuff is downloaded at the same time. And so you can go on site to someone's house and not need internet access. And then the next time that you bring it back to the office, if you have an account, it will push the data back up to the servers.
Now, if a practitioner creates one account, can they use with multiple individuals?
Yes, they can. I'm gonna do a quick little switcheroo over here. So this is my practitioner, Eric J. These are my four clients that I have in this little demo account. So uh, we have two of my dogs that I pretended that I was doing assessments with to check the data was being stored correctly, and then a couple of just practice demo things for one practice and then the one that we actually went through today. So you can have as many clients. We don't limit how many clients you can have under one practitioner.
Well, I'm not seeing any further questions right now. Give it another, oh, wait a minute, one more maybe.
Mhm.
Is any data collected by using the tool? Is there a way to ensure HIPAA compliance?
Um, we we collect just that you go to pages. So kind of just like to monitor that it's being used, not actual client data. As far as HIPAA compliance, we built the application so that it doesn't require you to input any HIPAA uh, information. And we leave it kind of on you as the practitioner to pay attention to what you're putting into the application to ensure HIPAA compliance within your organization.
Is there any kind of two-step verification required for account creation?
Uh, for we do not do two-step um, account uh, verification.
Okay. Well, I am going to launch my little poll here, and hopefully people will answer for me. And I want to say thank you to Eric for his time and for telling us about this really interesting tool. And if anybody has any questions, they can, of course, reach out to me and I can forward to you. Or if you'd like to put your contact information, Eric, in the chat, then people can reach out directly to you as well.
Is I will add, as I said, I'm in the process of moving organizations,
Right.
but this is an email address that I will continue to use uh, after that move. So
Okay,
you're more
great.
than welcome to reach out to me there.
Perfect. Well, thank you, everyone. And I believe a five is the best in the rating scale. I thought it said so, but evidently not. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Well, thank you, Eric. A couple
Thank you.
people are all.
Apologies for I ended up a little too fast, but
Oh, no, no, no. It's fine. People will enjoy getting an extra 5 or 10 minutes back of their day. I know I
yeah.
do sometimes. So that was really good. I'm sure I'll hear from people and I'll let you know if I do.
Thank you
We
very
appreciate
much.
it. Looks really interesting. Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too. Bye.